What's good, Humble Squad? It's your boy HumbleZiggy, and we back here with a brand new reaction. And look, normally you always see me react to anything that's like nerdcore or music related, but I want to push myself out there to get more to get more subscribers and really make y'all know about my kind of interests, and hopefully y'all can relate to it as well. And what's more there to, and if you watch my reaction to where I reacted to Rustage's Shinobi rap, his Naruto rap Shinobi, there was the bars in there that particularly got me excited, where he said about, now I drew my future, not McIntyre. Basically the whole Drew McIntyre CM Punk bar. And the wrestling bars, you've always seen me love to hear a wrestling bar here and there, so I figured why not react to something that's wrestling related. And we got here from the What Culture Wrestling page, we got 10 biggest burial artists in wrestling history. Now, you always know that when it comes to wrestling, especially if it's in WWE, there are some superstars that are legends or whatnot, that when you see them, you know 9 times out of 10 they tend to get pushed to the moon, right? So that way people can know about, so people really invest themselves in them. And 9 times out of 10, let's just say, take for example John Cena. Like this is his last year. He's been known to be have that golden shovel they talk about and bury people. So we'll see who else is on this list. So we better check this out. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on all my socials up there. And without further ado, let's get it.
From beasts not wanting to play ball, to insecure rattlesnakes, to an icon feeling that just doesn't work for him, brother. Oh, and I'm Gareth, and you are watching What Culture Wrestling right now. Here are the 10 biggest burial artists in wrestling history, my friends. Let's go then. Number 10, Brock Lesnar. Very much a case of quality of burials over quantity here. Brock Lesnar was more than happy to do business when the mood struck, and indeed kept himself over by knowing when to lose, how to lose, and who to lose to. But it was fairly obvious when that didn't mean much to him. In one case, it was even confirmed by his high-profile opponent. The artist, formerly known as Dean Ambrose, was gritting his teeth through an awkward 2016 interview with Stone Cold Steve Austin, when he revealed that Lesnar wasn't particularly receptive to many of his ideas going into their uneven WrestleMania 32 brawl, explaining away the disappointing bout in the process. Truthfully, the contest only really even makes any sense when you consider Lesnar just noping stuff beforehand. Hard to argue with that, man. Elsewhere, Braun Strowman repeatedly got a patronizingly short shrift from the beast. Was he conscious of the monster among men being somebody that could steal his spot when they assembled a criminally disappointing dud at No Mercy 2017? Or was he just foreshadowing their 2018 matches, where he had to tag Strowman for real and squash him at Royal Rumble and Crown Jewel respectively? Lesnar could...
Hey, all I can say is if you watch that Royal Rumble 2018 match with him, Braun Strowman, and Kane, trust me, let's just say there was one point where Brock was telling that, basically there was one point in that action where Brock really let that nigga tell him to slow down, really, and such. Trust me, go watch it, cause you'll see where he tells his ass to slow the fuck down with the wrestling. Cause you gotta realize, when it comes to professional wrestling, you don't want always you don't intentionally want to hurt your opponent. Well, even though it looks like it, but intentionally, you never know what's gonna happen. But hey, with Brock Lesnar, that nigga said, and you gotta remember, Brock Lesnar is also in the UFC range too, so he'll tell your ass something. But yeah, the way how if you go watch the match, you'll see in slow motion where that nigga Braun Strowman's brain, it really jiggled. So, hey, You do not want to mess with Lesnar.
Or was he just foreshadowing their 2018 matches, where he had to tag Strowman for real and squash him at Royal Rumble and Crown Jewel respectively? Lesnar could just count himself lucky a few attempts to get a certain feud off the ground never materialized. What on earth would he have done to secure himself against the muscle and might of number 9, Shane McMahon?
To get started in data analytics, you don't need previous experience or a degree. The Google Data Analytics Certificate.
I'm not gonna lie, hold on. When Shane McMahon returned back to WWE in 2016, his first match was with The Undertaker at WrestleMania 32. And I ain't gonna lie, for him returning back, that was a hell of a match. But along the other ways, you can tell 9 times out of 10, especially in 2019. So,
Shane McMahon was so shamelessly and brazenly self-serving in his post-2016 return that it's easy to forget just how effective he once was as the physical maniac of the McMahon family. Positioned perfectly as lucky enough to steal a win or two over X-Pac and carried through said victories by the almost peerless Sean Waltman, McMahon was fortuitous as a heel and gutsy as a babyface, but fundamentally was a boy wonder in a man's world in 1999 to 2001. He curated a vibe around himself that explained the monster pops and boost to ticket sales he generated for his WrestleMania 32 return. But it was as if those early reactions went to his head the longer he stuck around. He went blow for blow with The Undertaker in Dallas and proceeded to become the Mirror Man against whomever he faced. He could out-wrestle AJ Styles, he could out-stare Brock Lesnar, and he could out-cheat The Miz. He became the common denominator in his programs rather than an occasional feature. So much so that by 2022 he was fired by his own father for campaigning to dominate and win the Royal Rumble. There goes the money.
Yeah, like, bro, are you serious? Yeah, like, the fact that in 2019 he had a win over Roman Reigns, and mind you, before Roman Reigns got pinned or whatnot by not only Jey Uso but also as Cody Rhodes from last year at WrestleMania, before Roman Reigns transitioned into the tribal chief gimmick, he was one of the people who pinned this man. Shane McMahon was one of the few men that pinned Roman Reigns before he transitioned into the tribal chief era. And I ain't gonna lie, I don't care. I don't care if you're my boss or whatnot, and especially if you're the son of the chairman. Nah, I'm sorry. I would get heated. And then you want to book him to win the Royal Rumble, the 2022 Royal Rumble.
By his own father for campaigning to dominate and win the Royal Rumble. There goes the money. And the less said about WrestleMania 39, the better, eh? Number 8, The Undertaker. Taking souls and digging holes might have been the gimmick for the dead man for the bulk of it.
I don't know if Undertaker more of a
his iconic WWE run, but he also knew his way around a shoot burial if the booking wasn't doing quite enough to protect the integrity of a character he felt he'd worked too long and hard for. In defense of the man who you could label Mark with or without the capital M, he'd endured a lot during some of WWE's leanest years in the 90s. But his matches had at times been so lousy that it felt at very least like a score draw. Said lack of quality didn't justify how little he gave Kurt Angle twice in 2000 though. How he dared to put Chris Jericho in his place shortly after cutting an infamously terrible...
I'm reacting. One second, y'all. Hello, you can't see me react. Get my back. Sorry, y'all. Dad brought me some dumplings. Y'all see? So, hey, why not? Y'all want some? Y'all want some? Nah, y'all don't want none. especially the way how he cooks it. Y'all don't want none of mine. But back to this.
Promo and the lengths he went to put Diamond Dallas Page and the rest of the potential WCW breakouts in their places during a fatally flawed Invasion storyline.
Yeah, that WWF versus Alliance. It had. Let me say it like this. It had its moments, but because you got to realize when you were thinking about how WCW and ECW, but mostly when it was WCW versus WWF, people were thinking the likes of Goldberg, Sting, or whatnot were gonna wanna be in this angle, but there was other ones there like Diamond Dallas Page, Booker T, and whatnot. So I can't say it wasn't a complete bust, because you did get other ones who were stars there, former world champions in Diamond Dallas Page and Booker T. But for the rest of it, yeah, it had its moments from time to time. So it's a good thing that in 2001, in November, that shit ended.
CW breakouts in their places during a fatally flawed Invasion storyline. It extended into 2002, when he was the first person Brock Lesnar couldn't plow through at Unforgiven. But he did at least do business the right way in a cell match the following month. At his mid-2000s working peak, he was as game as he'd ever been to get others over while staying that way himself.
Hey, and crazy enough, I wanted to see, and the thing is, I would want to. They were saying about, and there were stories about how his, and I don't give a damn what anybody say, because I know most people want to say about which gimmick of The Undertaker was fire. Me personally, right? And look, to each his own. But me, his 2000s to 2003 run, where he was the American Badass, aka Big Evil, I don't care what anybody say. To me, that was his most badass one, because that was mostly him in his realness. That's just him. Where he's talking more, giving more slang or whatnot, and just all around being more of a badass than seeming like the devil or whatnot. And basically like this, and especially where in his 2000, one of his promos back in 2000 say, although I don't dress like Satan anymore, I'm still down with the devil, and I will go medieval on your ass. Come on now. That just still tells you that nigga, even though he don't dress like this anymore, even though he wasn't dressed like this anymore, he can still whoop he's still down with the seven. Still down with the devil right down there. And hey, realistically, in real life, Undertaker's a Christian. So it's so crazy that the nigga who's known as the Phenom, the Dead Man, is a Christian man in real life. That just seems ironic to me.
Judge, jury, and executioner of mid-carders was already secure. Now, what wrestling burial are you still not over? Well, let me know in the comments down below, and we will all have a good cry together. Number 7, Stone Cold Steve Austin. On his 1996-97 rise, and then again at his peak shortly afterwards, Stone Cold Steve Austin had such fabulous instincts for his character that he was able to reshape most of WWE around his vibe and carry it back to industry dominance and mainstream supremacy. Vince McMahon considered the Rattlesnake the most challenging talent he ever worked with, but the former easily justified the latter during the unexpected turn-of-the-century boom. That boom came to an end with an alarming thud following WrestleMania X7, but Austin's influence remained at large. This resulted in almost every WCW talent kowtowing to his megalomaniacal persona in 2001, and a host of wrestlers struggling to get past him when the bloom was completely off the rails by 2002. His insecurity increased following his 2003 retirement. Once an invaluable character in WWE, he became something of a bully babyface in his role as an on-screen authority figure. Physically destroying everybody in sight had been passable creative when he was still able to give the victims a bit of shine in matches, but a generation of talent were plowed through in preserving the pops after the glass smashed. Number 6, John Cena.
Yep, as I was saying about John Cena. I mean, at one point they called him Super Cena.
John Cena's inhuman work ethic inadvertently buried hundreds of wrestlers, when so few could live up to the almost impossible standards he set as WWE's top star.
Hell, he don't even have to bury them in matches. He can just bury them in promos. Like, there are so many of his promos, like the one way with him and the Usos. Well, not bury, but smoke them there. The one with him and AJ Styles, smoked him. The one with him and The Miz, going to WrestleMania 33, smoked him. The one with him and Solo Sikoa, smoked him. Who else? Like, there's so many promos where John Cena just smoked the hell out of them. Hell, Jimmy Uso, that one too, saying about how the wrong Uso quit. Smoked him right there.
During the brand first era, not least when he flatly refused to sell the losses he did take during his lengthy stay on top. In a more direct manner though, he seems to have a real problem doing right by The Miz. Was it insecurity in that, though nowhere near as popular, Miz embodied enough of the cookie cutter qualities that Champ had that he could have been the one to replace him in a different timeline? Was it that he saw that the A-lister had, if nothing else, a similar drive to do and say just about anything the company asked of him? Whatever it was, he just seemed to love cutting Miz off at the knees, or simply not giving him the leg up in the first place.
True.
A near 20 years on WWE television suggests that he didn't quite get it done though, and that he wasn't wrong about his rival's staying power. He also really should have done business for the Nexus at SummerSlam 2010. Now yes, they still might have died on the vine soon after, but our first win would have...
I will say though, even he was... I think, and I was hearing stories with that, even he, John Cena, was saying with that Nexus angle, even he was saying about how they should have made them win over. They should have made the Nexus win over. Because think about it. The young up-and-coming guys like the Wayne Barretts, they were young. Daniel Bryan at the time, and all of them, right? They should have went over because they're young, they're up-and-coming, they're hungry, and they were from NXT, the very first initial, basically Vince McMahon's NXT, where instead of putting them with wrestling, they put them with freaking obstacle course, singing. It's a good thing Triple H took over. Thank God for Triple H taking over NXT at that time, because boy, if we were to have that type of NXTs today, wouldn't last. But yeah, they should have went over.
At least allowed them to live a little longer, right? But we'll never know. If you're enjoying looking at these big burial artists, then why not hit that subscribe button down below for more What Culture Wrestling lists, news, and other
hit that subscribe button
videos.
for me too.
Number 5.
And if you want me to do these more, if I got any wrestling fans out there, hit that subscribe button too. And let me know if you want more of this.
Disliked by the majority of his peers for how little care he seemed to take with their bodies, and hated by many following his retirement for how little respect he seemingly had for all that was done to get him to the position he briefly peaked at, the Ultimate Warrior was a single-issue wrestler. The single issue was the status of the Ultimate Warrior. Bobby Heenan luxuriated in telling the story of Andre the Giant smashing him in the face after one too many nights, absorbing Warrior's recklessness, probably because he himself was hurt during a WrestleMania 5 post-match assault. Warrior was a squash guy on the way up and never gave a thought to anybody or anything on the way down, often literally. The wildness was a key part of what got him, and indeed the very idea of pro wrestling, over with generations of fans. But in contrast to the way people spoke of working a Hogan Town for the payoff or a Hart match for the protection, Warrior fell drastically short of the talismanic figures he slotted in between. From failing to live up to expectations as a top draw, to requiring great wrestlers to make him look good, and to overestimating his own worth pre- and post-retirement. Warrior Jim's tunnel vision was his undoing, and in the end, Warrior buried no one harder than himself, really. Number 4, The Click.
Damn. That's crazy. That's a dark bar, but burying none other than himself, cause 2014 he passed
Warrior
away. So.
buried no one harder than himself, really. Number 4, The Click. Absolutely notorious for how they directly and indirectly scythe through careers with malice and ease. The Click have been lionized in modern wrestling discussion because 4 of them were doing some of the industry's most transcendent work at the time, and Triple H was also there. There goes my finger point photo. Controlling the discussion in the modern age because the Game and Shawn Michaels control so much of WWE's creative present and future. Michaels, Diesel, Razor Ramon, the 1-2-3 Kid, and Hunter Hearst Helmsley looked after their own at the expense of almost everybody else, because in their minds they were totally justified in doing so. Nothing was popular territory for the company, but the core 4 did at least bring mixes of quality, charisma, and realism to a product desperately in need of some. So went every tale told ever since. If you got on their bad side, you were doomed, and there's ample evidence that played out on screen to back that up.
Yeah, that infamous hug, right? Because that was the very first time, right? Very first time. Because if I'm not mistaken, back in this time, it was, rest in peace to Scott Hall. I think it was Scott Hall and I don't know who was the baby faces and who was the heels at the time when they were saying it. But yeah, 2 of them were heels, 2 of them were baby face. So the fact that you see them all hugging like this, because you're supposed to keep it kayfabe, where heels supposed to hate baby faces supposed to hate heels. You should not see none of this. But because of them doing that, let's just say, and if you know your history, take a wild guess of who got the punishment out of this. Take a wild guess of who, after this, took the punishment of it. Because one of them was already the champion of the company, and the other 2 was about to head out. So yeah, take a wild guess of who was it.
Only Bret Hart and The Undertaker appeared immune from their control between late 1994 and the 1996 exits of Scott Hall and Kevin Nash for WCW. And even then, look at what both were doing in the meantime. Hart went through the ringer of a dire WWE undercard and still made chicken salad most of the time, while The Undertaker basically got distracted with the corporation in a year-long time-filling urn chase. The Click, meanwhile, worked overtime to get each other over, and the Hitman revealed in his book that upon becoming WWE champion, Michaels had every intention of keeping it that way at the top of the card, before plans and the entire industry changed. Number 3, Hulk Hogan. The sheer scale and power of a Hulk Hogan burial is such that there are ways to reference careers falling apart in front of you, simply by calling back to one of the many times he put a thumb on a colleague's forehead. See an established star take a win from a guy who needed it more? That doesn't work for me, brother, bounces around your brain in the voice of the veteran who...
The King! I'm surprised this is number 3. He should have been number 1. Cause nigga, and especially with the recent stuff, bro. Especially with the season premiere episode of Raw on Netflix last month. Y'all heard the boost where he got throughout the entire segment. And people were to say where the only reason why he booed is because of his political belief. No. Because if that were the case, Undertaker voted for the same guy or endorsed the same guy Hulk Hogan endorsed. He endorsed Donald Trump too, right? But yet he was cheered. So if you really think it was because of politics, why wasn't the Undertaker getting cheered then? Sometimes it's not about politics, because if you know, you know.
Who stole the W. Chris Jericho rocking up to kill your favorite new hand in AEW? Expect a post on social media with a clip of the Hulkster's TNA music, expertly calling back to a time his every idea made that show worse and worse. A belt starting to lose its value? Well, cue up 1993 Hogan calling the WWE Championship a toy or trinket despite him politicking Bret Hart out of it at WrestleMania 9. The Ultimate Warrior rematch at Halloween Havoc was an all-time Turkerino, but there was parity to be restored after an 8-year wait. The less said about Sting's Starrcade 97 tan, the better too. Naturally, the somewhat reasonable argument for Hogan's self-preservation was that in his prime years, his success was generating monster payouts for everybody else he worked alongside or against. A Golden Goose headliner in 2 separate runs. He never felt he stopped producing though, even when the eggs he'd lay were all rotten. Only then did the burials sting. When you can't do business, you should do business. A lesson often avoided by number 2, Triple H.
Triple H too. Especially WrestleMania 19. Hey, all I'm gonna say is this. Granted, because of Hulk Hogan, we know about professional wrestling, right? And I'll never take that away from him. But sometimes you need to realize you are not the only person that made people wanna watch wrestling in their eyes, right? Because many people could say it was The Undertaker. Many people say it was Stone Cold. Many people say it was The Rock. Many people would say, and not even if it's not even WWE, just any wrestling promotion or whatnot. So, yeah. And then with him, with the whole thing in 2007, where basically if you read about it, where with the whole racism thing, yeah. People ain't dumb. You think just because you have this big thing, just because you think you was the figure that was wrestling, people just going, nah, son. And last month when you came out, that proves it all. So, I'm sorry.
Realistically, the single greatest politician in wrestling history. Triple H made a life and career for himself by being just fine at most things in front of the camera and just exceptional at backstage chess when the red light was off. He smartly picked the best friend group in 1995 when offering to be the sober hand at the wheel, both steering and suitcase for the clique. Got his voice heard in creative sessions as business boomed under real stars Steve Austin and The Rock. Kept it there when he married into the McMahon family, and positioned himself as unstoppable when there was neither stars nor audience investment to stop him in a mid-2000s reign of terror. It is unfair to say he didn't briefly make the mountaintop on merit, but his decades-long deification is betrayed by actually sitting down to watch the majority of his prime years between the ropes. 2000 up to his first quad tear in May 2001 was the peak, but undeniable brilliance for 18 months has been overstated ad infinitum thanks to longer periods where he simply won to indifference or gobbled up hours and hours of pay-per-view time in defeat. The losses others suffered were compounded by his power too. Nobody got to be cooler, funnier, or harder than Triple H, even if he was somewhere between a 4 and a 6 out of 10 at portraying all of those roles. It's ironic, as a booker, his fantastic creative between 2022 and 2024 resulted in WWE introducing...
Hey, and plus, don't forget his work. Don't forget his work in NXT too, boy. What? Like I said earlier, if it wasn't for Triple H taking over in NXT in 2012, we would have still have Vince McMahon's era of NXT where he do freaking obstacle courses or trivia questions or whatever. So hey, big shout outs for Triple H for when it comes to him being the booker. Cause you basically like this. Around 2012 to 2019 or 2012 to 2021, I would say early 2021, Triple H was goated with the booking when it comes to NXT. Tell me I'm lying. Tell me I'm lying. Because if you've watched NXT, you cannot tell me Triple H wasn't goated when it came to that booking, boy. And then with Shawn Michaels picking up it, hey, they did. it's so ironic that DX, the most rebellious group, right, in wrestling history, became the authority. Because that, I remember seeing like a picture where it was in 2006 where there was DX painted on, like spray painted on WWE headquarters, and boy was that ever a like a freaking storytelling from that moment where DX ruled the world, ruled the wrestling world. Today proves it.
Fantastic creative between 2022 and 2024 resulted in WWE introducing a graphic on screen to track the decibel levels in the building. In his time atop the company as a wrestler 20 years earlier, you need even stronger equipment just to find a pulse. Number 1, Vince McMahon. It took all the mentioned master politicians to keep themselves in positions of power, but nobody could have made those moves without a facilitator quite like Vince McMahon at the top of wrestling's tree for as long as he resided there. Ahead of him resigning in disgrace twice, McMahon was an autocrat to a damaging, abusive, and increasingly horrific fault. And when he wasn't presiding over a company that adhered to his mantras for better and worse, he was actively and directly destroying pushes with his miserable creative. In the aftermath of his departure, an almost immediate creative upturn, it's getting easier and easier to wave away just about 20 years of shoddy work between 2002 and 2022. But there are specifically steep drop-offs in standards around the 2009 guest host era of Monday Night Raw. And again in 2018 when WWE became more financially reliant on television money than customer takings for the first time. Pick your favorite wrestler, and unless it's John Cena, McMahon's directions did something to harm their trajectory. And if anything, it tempered the best of the burial artists. Put simply, nothing they could do in front of the camera was as devastating as what the former chairman was able to craft behind the scenes. Have you enjoyed this list about the 10 biggest burial artists in wrestling history? Well then check out this one about wrestlers burying their own promotions too. You're gonna have a whale of a time. Bye bye.
Hey, shout out to What Culture, man. And who knows, if you want, like I say, if this video does good, I'll check out that one too. But yeah, shout out to What Culture Wrestling, because I've been watching them for years on many things, whether it's WWE or any other wrestling things. And when they do these 10 lists or whatnot, these top 10 lists, you'll be finding out a lot about certain things in wrestling. Hell, I'm learning. Most of the times I'm always learning about certain things because of them. But yeah, y'all let me know what y'all thought about this down in the comments below. Who do y'all think is definitely deserving of being known as the top burial? Because like I said earlier, I thought Hulk Hogan would be number 1, but alas, Vince McMahon was number 1. I do kind of see it, but like I said, y'all let me know what y'all thought about this down in the comments below. It's been your boy HumbleZiggy signing out. Stay positive, keep the vibes up. I'm out.